In the ancient and prosperous kingdom of Umuozara, nestled deep in the lush emerald hills of southeastern Igboland, there lived a princess of unparalleled beauty named Ugonna. Her name meant God's pride, and she was indeed the pride of her father, King Obiuku, and her mother, Queen Adama. The people of Umuozara often sang praises of her radiant skin, which was as shiny as the morning sun, and her curvy figure, accentuated by her plump bosom. Yet, beneath this extraordinary exterior, Princess Ugonna bore a curse that shadowed her life, a curse that no one could have ever anticipated. Despite her enchanting looks, Ugonna suffered from a terrible affliction, a body odor so strong and foul that it caused everyone around her to recoil in horror. This nightmare stench was no ordinary odor. It was as though it carried the very essence of decay and rot, an abomination that mocked her beauty and made her the subject of whispered ridicule throughout the kingdom. The curse began shortly after her 16th birthday, and no one knew its origin. The once joyful and lively princess, who was the jewel of Umuozara, found herself shunned and isolated. The once adoring maids who served her now only approached her with hidden disgust, covering their noses discreetly as they attended to her needs. Ugonna's life became a constant torment. She could no longer join the other maidens in the village dances or the festive gatherings in the marketplace. Her presence, once celebrated, now brought discomfort and shame. The villagers whispered that she was cursed, and that her beauty was a cruel trick of the gods, masking the foulness within. Her palace maids, Adaobi, Neka, and Chiamaka, were loyal but deeply troubled. They dared not leave her service, out of fear of angering the king, but they too could not hide their revulsion. When Ugonna walked through the village, dressed in her finest regalia, the maids followed closely behind, their faces contorted with effort as they tried to suppress the urge to flee from the stench. They covered their noses as discreetly as possible, but their discomfort was evident. Even as they walked along the narrow village roads, the villagers passing by would pause, wrinkle their noses, and quickly turn away, murmuring in disgust. The pain in Ugonna's heart was overwhelming. The shining complexion that had once brought her so much admiration now felt like a cruel mockery. Her curvy shape and plump bosom, once symbols of fertility and grace, now seemed meaningless in the face of her affliction. Every day she would gaze into the river near the village, her reflection taunting her with the contrast between her outer beauty and inner torment. The river, known as Ayama, was said to be sacred, a place where the villagers often went to cleanse themselves physically and spiritually. But even the river seemed to reject Ugonna, for no matter how many times she bathed, the odor persisted. The water, which had cleansed so many others, could not cleanse her. As days turned into months, and months into years, Ugonna's isolation deepened. The once vibrant princess became a shadow of herself, her laughter gone, her spirit crushed. Her parents, King Obiuku and Queen Adama, were heartbroken. They consulted the greatest medicine men and women from far and wide, offering them riches and land if they could cure their daughter. But none could lift the curse. Some said it was the wrath of the gods. Others whispered that it was a punishment for some unknown sin of her ancestors. But no one could provide a solution. The villagers of Umuozara, despite their pity for the princess, began to distance themselves further. It was said that even the animals in the village would flee at her approach, sensing the unnaturalness of her condition. Ugonna was left with nothing but the company of her loyal, albeit distressed maids, and the memories of a time when she was adored and cherished by all. In a neighboring kingdom called Alama, ruled by the wise and just King Izudo, a young and handsome prince named Obinna was searching for a wife. Prince Obinna was known not only for his striking looks and muscular physique, but also for his kind heart and wisdom beyond his years. He had traveled far and wide, attending ceremonies and festivals in search of a bride who was as beautiful inside as she was outside. One day, news reached the kingdom of Alama that King Obiuku of Umuozara was hosting a grand festival to celebrate his 50th birthday. This event was to be one of the most lavish celebrations in all the lands, with dignitaries and royals from various kingdoms invited to partake in the festivities. Among those invited was Prince Obinna, who decided to attend, hopeful that he might find his future queen among the many maidens who would be present. As preparations for the festival began, there was great excitement in the kingdom of Umuozara. But for Princess Ugonna, the event was a source of dread. She knew that she would be expected to appear, to stand by her father's side, and to be the face of the royal family. But she also knew that her presence would bring discomfort to the guests, and that once again she would be reminded of the curse that had turned her life into a living nightmare. The day of the festival arrived, and the kingdom of Umuozara was alive with color and music. The streets were lined with villagers dressed in their finest traditional attire, and the air was filled with the scent of roasted meats and fragrant herbs. Prince Obinna arrived with a grand entourage, his presence commanding attention wherever he went. He was greeted with great honor, and as he was led through the palace, he could not help but notice the beauty of the kingdom and its people. But something caught his attention even more: the whispers among the guests about the mysterious princess of Umuozara. Finally, the moment arrived when Princess Ugonna made her appearance. Dressed in a gown that shimmered like the morning dew, with her golden crown and regal beads, she looked every bit the princess she was. But as she walked into the grand hall, holding her urukir, all eyes turned to her with a mixture of awe and discomfort. The guests, including Prince Obinna, were struck by her beauty, but the air around her seemed to thicken with an unseen, unbearable force, the stench that had plagued her for so long. As Ugonna walked past the guests, they turned away, whispering and casting pitying glances at her. But Prince Obinna did not turn away. Instead, he felt a deep sense of sorrow and empathy for the princess. He could see the pain in her eyes, the hopelessness etched into her beautiful face. Something within him stirred, and he knew that he had to know more about this princess who had been cursed with such a cruel fate. After the festivities, Prince Obinna sought out King Obiukwu and Queen Adama. With great respect, he inquired about their daughter, expressing his desire to speak with her. The king and queen, surprised by his request, allowed the prince to meet Ugonna in the royal gardens. As they walked together, Ugonna kept her distance, fearing that her odor would repulse the prince. But Prince Obinna, determined to understand the mystery behind this beautiful yet cursed princess, asked her to sit beside him. He spoke to her with kindness and sincerity, asking about her life and the burden she bore. Ugonna, who had longed for someone to truly see her beyond her curse, opened her heart to Prince Obinna. She spoke of her suffering, her isolation, and the countless nights she had cried herself to sleep. She told him of the river Ayama, which had failed to cleanse her, and of the many healers who had come and gone, unable to lift the curse. Moved by her story, Prince Obinna made a bold decision. He told Ugonna of a sacred river in his kingdom of Alaoma, a river that was said to have the power to cleanse and sanctify those who bathed in its waters. He believed that this river, called Nsukwa, could heal her and free her from the curse that had tormented her for so long. With her parents' blessing, Prince Obinna took Ugonna to Alaoma, accompanied by his entourage and Ugonna's loyal maids. The journey was long, but the hope that blossomed in Ugonna's heart made the days pass quickly. After many days of travel, the group arrived in the kingdom of Alaoma. The land was lush and fertile, with rivers that shimmered under the golden sun and hills that rolled like waves in the distance. The people of Alaoma were warm and welcoming, and they greeted Princess Ugonna with respect, despite the stories they had heard of her condition. Prince Obinna led Ugonna and her maids to the sacred river Nsukwa. This river was no ordinary body of water. It was said to be a gift from the gods, flowing directly from the heart of the earth. The water was so clear that one could see the smooth stones at the bottom, and its banks were lined with fragrant flowers that filled the air with a sweet, calming scent. The people of Alaoma often came to this river to seek healing and spiritual purification. As they approached the river, Ugonna felt a mixture of fear and hope. She had been disappointed so many times before, and she feared that this would be no different. But Prince Obinna reassured her, telling her to trust in the power of the river and the gods who blessed it. Ugonna, dressed in a simple white gown, stepped into the river with trembling hands. The water was cool against her skin, and as she waded deeper, she felt a strange sensation, a tingling that began in her toes and slowly spread through her entire body. The river seemed to embrace her, wrapping her in a gentle current that soothed her fears. Prince Obinna and the others watched in silence as Ugonna submerged herself fully in the water, her heart pounding with anticipation. She whispered a prayer to the gods, pleading for release from the curse that had stolen her life. For a moment, everything was still, and then, as if by some unseen force, the water around her began to glow with a soft, ethereal light. The light grew brighter, enveloping Ugonna in a cocoon of warmth and purity. She felt the curse that had clung to her for so long begin to melt away, dissolving into the water like a shadow banished by the sun. The odor, which had been her constant companion, faded until it was no more. And as the light faded, Ugonna emerged from the river, transformed. The air around her was no longer tainted with the foul stench that had once plagued her. Instead, she smelled of fresh blossoms and clean earth, as though the very essence of the river had seeped into her skin. Her maids, overcome with joy, rushed to her side, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced her. Prince Obinna smiled, his heart swelling with love for the princess who had endured so much. He knew then that she was not only beautiful on the outside, but that her strength, resilience, and purity of heart made her even more beautiful on the inside. He took her hand and promised that she would never have to suffer again. Word of Princess Ugonna's miraculous transformation spread quickly throughout the kingdom of Alama and beyond. The people of Umuozara rejoiced, praising the gods for their mercy and celebrating the end of their beloved princess's suffering. King Obiukwu and Queen Adama, upon hearing the news, were overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. They immediately began preparations for a grand celebration, one that would unite the kingdoms of Umuozara and Alama in a bond of friendship and love. The celebration was held in Umuozara, at the royal palace, where the two kingdoms gathered to witness the union of Prince Obinna and Princess Ugonna. The palace was adorned with colorful banners, and the scent of rich, spiced food filled the air. Musicians played lively tunes on drums and flutes, while dancers in vibrant attire twirled and leaped, their movements full of joy and life. Ugonna, now fully healed and more radiant than ever, walked down the grand hall with grace and confidence. She was dressed in the most exquisite Igbo bridal attire, a gown of deep red and gold, adorned with intricate embroidery and shimmering beads. Her golden crown sparkled in the light, and the beads that draped from her head to her ankles swayed with each step she took. Prince Obinna stood at the end of the hall, waiting for his bride. He was dressed in the finest robes, his muscular frame accentuated by the rich fabrics and intricate designs. His eyes were filled with admiration and love as he watched Ugonna approach. As they stood before the gathered crowd, the priest, Dibuez, who was revered for his wisdom and connection to the gods, blessed their union. He spoke of the trials they had faced, the strength they had shown, and the love that had brought them together. He prayed that the gods would continue to bless their marriage with peace, prosperity, and countless children. When the ceremony was complete, Prince Obinna and Princess Ugonna were officially declared husband and wife. The crowd erupted in cheers, and the newlyweds shared their first kiss as a married couple, sealing their love for all eternity. The marriage of Prince Obinna and Princess Ugonna marked the beginning of a new era for the kingdoms of Umuozara and Alama. Their union was celebrated as a symbol of love, resilience, and the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. The story of Ugonna's transformation became a legend, passed down through generations as a tale of hope and redemption. The river Nsukwa, where Ugonna had been cleansed, became a sacred site for both kingdoms. People from far and wide came to the river seeking healing, believing that its waters held the power to cleanse not only the body but the soul. The river was revered as a gift from the gods, a place where the divine touched the earth. Ugonna and Obinna's love grew stronger with each passing day. They ruled their kingdoms with wisdom and compassion, ensuring that their people were well cared for and that justice was upheld. Their reign was marked by peace and prosperity, and they were beloved by all. In time, Ugonna and Obinna were blessed with many children, each as beautiful and strong as their parents. The children grew up hearing the story of their mother's curse and her miraculous healing, and they carried the lessons of resilience, love, and faith in their hearts. As the years passed, Ugonna's story became more than just a tale of a beautiful princess with a nightmare body odor. It became a story of hope for those who suffered, a reminder that no curse is too great to overcome, and that true beauty lies not in appearance, but in the strength of the spirit and the purity of the heart.